I'm better than you now, Daniel. I've outgrown you. You're just a low-level man in dirty boots. I don't want anything to do with a construction worker like you anymore." Those were her exact words. Her lips didn't even tremble as she said it. Her eyes didn't blink. There was no shame, no hesitation. Just that stone-cold voice. I stared at Kimberly, the woman I had loved, the woman I had starved with, and I realized, in that moment, that the person standing in front of me wasn't the same woman I married 5 years ago. I should have expected it. I'd seen it coming like a slow-moving storm, one that starts with a distant rumble and ends in a flood that sweeps your whole world away. But nothing, absolutely nothing, prepares you for the day your wife looks you in the eye and tells you that you are not good enough. I remember wiping my hands with the dirty towel I kept in the back pocket of my jeans. I had just come back from work, boots caked with mud, arms sore, and bones aching. I walked into our apartment that evening carrying dinner, 2 paper bags of her favorite grilled catfish and Chinese rice, thinking maybe tonight would be better. Maybe she'd talk to me like she used to. Maybe she'd smile. Maybe she'd thank me. But all she did was look at the food and laugh. Not a laugh of joy, but mockery. "You still think food can fix this? Look at you, your nails are filled with dust and grease. You're embarrassing. I'm a nurse now. I sit in air-conditioned hospitals and take care of high-class people. You swing hammers and mix cement. We are not on the same level anymore." I stood there in silence, my mouth slightly open. I didn't even know how to respond. My heart beat so loudly I could hear it in my ears. The rice nearly slipped from my hands. "I want a divorce," she added, as if she were announcing that the milk had finished in the fridge. There it was. The blow I had been dreading for months. But she didn't stop there. "I'm going to marry someone who deserves me. Someone rich. Someone who doesn't come home smelling like sweat and dust." That night, I didn't sleep. I sat in the kitchen long after she slammed the bedroom door. I kept asking myself one question: how did we get here? Before we begin today's unforgettable story, welcome to Whispers of Reality, where real-life inspired stories come to life with raw emotion, suspense, and powerful truths. From heartbreaking betrayals to jaw-dropping comebacks, shocking secrets to soul-stirring moments, every story on this channel is a whisper from reality itself. These aren't just stories, they're experiences you'll feel. If you believe in the power of storytelling and love content that moves, inspires, and keeps you coming back for more, make sure to hit that subscribe button, tap the bell icon so you never miss an episode. Like this video, and share it with someone who needs to hear the truth behind today's tale. Now, sit back, open your heart, and let the whispers begin. My name is Daniel. I'm 42 years old. I live in Atlanta, Georgia, and I work construction, the kind of job that leaves your hands blistered, your back sore, and your clothes permanently stained with sweat and concrete. But I don't complain. It's honest work. It's the kind of work that lets you sleep at night because you know you earned every single dollar. I didn't go to college. Life didn't give me that kind of privilege. My mother raised me alone after my father walked out when I was 12. She scrubbed hotel floors for a living. I still remember her coming home with cracked heels, hands wrinkled from bleach water, but somehow still finding the strength to cook us dinner and smile through her pain. I learned something from her: you survive by fighting, even when you're tired. So, from the age of 17, I started working. At first, it was small gigs, lifting, painting, digging, anything that paid. Eventually, I found myself in construction. I learned the trade the hard way, made mistakes, lost jobs, got rehired. Atlanta's heat was unforgiving in the summer, but I stuck with it. Every nail I hammered, every beam I lifted, every wall I helped raise, I did it with pride. At 35, I had a little money saved, a used truck, and a rented one-bedroom apartment I was proud of. And it was around that time that I met Kimberly. She was 25, beautiful in a calm, understated way. Not loud, not flashy, just graceful. We met at a local pharmacy. I had gone to pick up my mom's blood pressure meds. She was at the counter, working. I still remember how polite she was, how she smiled at every customer, how she handed me that brown paper bag and said, "Take care of your mother." I came back the next day. I didn't need anything. I just wanted to see her smile again. We started talking, slowly. Then often. Then every day. She told me she was living with her aunt, trying to save up to go to nursing school. She had dreams, and I respected that. I admired it. I saw in her what I'd never had, ambition, not just to survive, but to rise. A year later, I asked her to be my wife. She didn't say yes immediately. She said she didn't want to be a burden, that she still had dreams. I told her I'd help. I told her that if she wanted to go to nursing school, I'd make it happen. She cried that night. Not out of pity, but because she said no one had ever believed in her the way I did. Looking back now, I realized those tears didn't mean what I thought they did. We didn't have a wedding with white roses and champagne fountains. We didn't even have a hall. What we had was a small church room filled with people who believed in us, or at least, people who believed love could grow in places where money was scarce. I wore my best black suit, the one I only brought out for Sunday service. Kimberly wore a borrowed dress and her hair in simple braids. But when I saw her walking toward me, I thought I was the luckiest man alive. We moved into my apartment after the wedding, just one bedroom, a small kitchen, and a couch that creaked every time you sat on it. But that place felt like paradise in the beginning. We had peace. We had laughter. Some nights, we lay on the floor with our backs on the cold tile, talking about our future, our dreams, our kids' names. She always said she wanted to be a nurse in the neonatal unit. She said she wanted to take care of premature babies and give them a chance to live. I used to smile just hearing her say that. When I brought up paying for her nursing school, she hesitated. "You already do so much," she said. But I meant it when I told her, "Kimberly, I believe in you. If you want this, I'll find a way." And I did. I took on extra hours at work. 6 days a week, sometimes 7. I accepted jobs others wouldn't take, demolition, roof work in July heat, night shifts on freeway construction. I came home late, sometimes too tired to eat. I lost weight. My hands started cramping in my sleep. My knees ached in the morning. But I kept going. Because I had a purpose, to build a future for us. For her. She got accepted into a 2-year nursing program, and when she opened that letter, she jumped into my arms and cried. I held her tight, feeling like I had just won something, too. We celebrated with rice and beans that night, laughing like kids. She kept saying, "I won't let you down, baby." She didn't know it, but those words kept me going on the worst days. On days when I could barely keep my eyes open, on days when the foreman yelled in my face for no reason, on days when my boots were soaked with cement and rain, I'd think of her in class, writing notes, learning how to save lives. I thought we were growing together. But now, thinking back, I realize I was growing roots while she was growing wings. It started with small things. At first, it was her tone. Kimberly used to speak to me with softness in her voice, like I mattered. But after she became a certified nurse, the softness faded. It was like she had upgraded her title, and downgraded her respect for me. She came home later than usual, wore new perfumes I didn't recognize, and began correcting my English mid-sentence, like I was a student who kept embarrassing her in public. "Daniel," she said one night as I served her dinner, "you don't have to cook anymore. It's not your thing. You're not delicate." I paused. "Not delicate?" She shrugged, taking the plate without looking at me. "Yeah, you know. You're rough. Like, construction worker rough." It stung more than I let on. Not because I needed her to praise my cooking, but because she'd never used my job like a slur before. Another day, she came home in full makeup, something she rarely used to wear. Her phone was always in her hand, smiling at texts I never saw. Once, I walked behind her and jokingly asked, "Who's making you smile like that?" She looked up at me and replied, flatly, "None of your business." That was the first time in 5 years that I felt like a stranger in my own home. Things escalated fast after that. She stopped waiting for me to eat dinner. She stopped calling me baby. She started dressing up to work like she was going on a date. At first, I tried to talk about it. "Kimberly, are we okay?" "We're fine." "You're just insecure," she'd say. "Then talk to me." "I feel like we're drifting." "Daniel," she snapped one night, "I've grown. You haven't. I spend my day around professionals. You spend yours covered in dust." That night I didn't sleep. I lay in bed, watching the ceiling fan spin, wondering what I had done wrong. Was it a mistake to sponsor her? Was I not enough? Or was this what ambition does to love? But what hurt the most was how she started trying to provoke me. She would insult me for no reason, call me names, throw jabs, sometimes in front of her friends. One evening she looked me in the eye and said, "You're pathetic. All you do is mix cement. You think that's a real life?" I wanted to shout. I wanted to ask her who paid her school fees, who supported her when she was just a pharmacy assistant begging to chase a dream. But I kept quiet. I didn't want to say anything I'd regret. Then came the day she threw a cup at me. It missed. It hit the wall. Shattered. She stood there breathing hard. Waiting. Watching me. "You want to hit me, don't you?" she said, a twisted smile on her lips. "Go ahead. Touch me. Let the world see who you really are." That's when it hit me, she wasn't just angry. She was setting a trap. I walked away that night. Sat in my truck for 2 hours in silence. And when I came back inside, I made a decision. I was going to start recording everything. The next morning, I drove to a small electronics store across town, one of those places that still sold camcorders, mini voice recorders, and nanny cams. I told the guy behind the counter I needed something discreet. He didn't ask why. Just nodded and handed me a small voice recorder the size of a USB stick. "Battery lasts about 15 hours, he said. "Clear audio, even through walls." I paid cash. No receipt. No questions. I had become a man preparing for war, not the kind with fists, but the kind where silence becomes your greatest weapon. I started keeping the recorder in my pocket whenever I was home. I also bought a small motion-activated camera and hid it somewhere in the living room, facing the couch. Another went in the bedroom fan vent. I hated myself for it. It made me feel like a criminal. But I knew I wasn't doing this to hurt Kimberly, I was doing it to protect myself. Because at that point, I knew it was just a matter of time before she accused me of something I didn't do. She pushed every button she could find. She'd shout and scream at me when I walked in from work, sometimes calling me names so foul I can't even write them. Once, she spat in my direction. Another time, she slapped the back of my head while I was cooking and dared me to react. But I never did. I'd grip the edge of the table, count to 5, and breathe. Sometimes I'd retreat to the bathroom just to avoid her. One night, I slept in the truck outside after she dumped water on the bed and blamed me for being a man who stinks like sweat. All the while, the camera and recorder were doing their jobs. Some nights I'd sit in the truck replaying the audio. Just listening to the madness, hearing how calm I stayed, how aggressive she was. It was like listening to someone else's life. And it broke me. It broke me to think that the woman I gave everything to was now the one trying to break me, bury me, and walk away without guilt. But through the pain, I kept preparing. Then one evening, it finally happened. I came home from work, dropped my keys on the counter, and found her sitting on the couch, dressed like she was going out. She didn't look at me, just stared ahead. "I want a divorce," she said calmly. I stood there, heart thudding. She didn't shout this time. Didn't throw anything. Just delivered the words like they meant nothing. "I'm marrying someone else," she continued. "A doctor. A real man." I said nothing. She glanced over at me with a smirk. "And don't worry, I'm not asking for anything. Keep your little savings. I don't need it. I've upgraded. I've outgrown this life. And you?" I nodded. That was all I did. I nodded, walked into the bedroom, sat down on the edge of the bed, and stared at the empty space beside me, the same space she used to fill with laughter and dreams. And then I whispered to myself, "This is the end. But not the end of me." I didn't fight her. Not in court. Not at home. Not even in my thoughts. When Kimberly handed me the divorce papers, I read every line slowly. She meant every word, she didn't want anything from me. Not the house. Not my savings. Not a dime. At first, I was confused. Then I realized, she didn't think I was worth fighting for. She thought I was beneath her. Disposable. Like a worn-out boot after a long job. I signed the papers without flinching. Without arguing. I didn't even ask who the man was, the doctor she claimed had promised her the world. It didn't matter. I wasn't interested in the next chapter of her life. I was too busy surviving the ending of mine. After the divorce was finalized, I gave myself 1 week. Just 1 week to pack up everything, the memories, the furniture, the grief, and move on. I put the house up for sale the next day. I couldn't stomach walking through the hallways anymore. Every wall reminded me of her laughter, every corner whispered of the days I worked late just to make her dreams come true. I sold it at a fair price, enough to start over, not rich, but stable. I moved to the south side of Atlanta. Quiet neighborhood. Smaller apartment. Fewer memories. I left behind everything that smelled of her, the pillows, the dishes, Even the framed photo on the hallway wall from our first anniversary. I threw it into the trash can at a gas station on the drive to my new place. I didn't even look back. The first few months were hollow. I'd wake up expecting to hear her humming in the kitchen. I'd reach out to touch someone who wasn't there. I'd come home from work and stare at the empty couch, too tired to eat, too angry to cry. But slowly, quietly, I started to heal. I painted the walls in my new apartment a light gray, calm and neutral. I bought a new mattress, firm and plain. I kept to myself. The only place I poured my energy into was work. I worked like a man possessed. Weekends. Double shifts. Concrete became my therapy, and every slab I laid felt like one more step away from the pain. One night, about 6 months after the move, I pulled out my old hard drive and saved all the recordings and videos, over 40 files, into a private folder titled. I didn't know what I was going to do with them. Maybe nothing. Maybe someday. But I kept them, not out of bitterness, but out of wisdom. Because I had learned something, not everyone you build up will be grateful. Not everyone you love will love you back. But life has a way of coming full circle. And I was patient. 2 years. 730 days since she walked out of my life. I hadn't heard her voice. Hadn't seen her face. I thought I never would again. Until she called. It was a rainy Thursday evening. I had just returned from a double shift, soaked in sweat and summer rain. I kicked off my boots, dropped my keys on the table, and was about to step into the shower when my phone rang. An unknown number. Atlanta area code. I almost ignored it. Something in me said don't pick up, but something else, something I can't explain, pulled my hand toward the screen. I answered. There was silence for a moment, then came the voice I once knew better than my own. Daniel, it's me. My heart didn't race. It didn't ache. It didn't feel much of anything. I just stood there, phone pressed to my ear, listening to a voice I thought I'd buried with my past. She spoke again, softer this time. Can we talk? I didn't answer right away. I walked over to the window and stared out at the streetlight shimmering in the puddles outside. Why? I asked. I need to see you. Please. Her voice cracked. Just slightly. Like someone trying not to cry, or maybe trying to sound broken enough for sympathy. I didn't ask what it was about. I didn't ask where she was. I just said, I'll think about it, and hung up. For the next 4 weeks, she called every Saturday. Same number. Same soft voice. Same plea. I just want to talk. And I ignored every call, not out of spite, but out of discipline. Because I'd spent 2 years stitching myself back together, and I wasn't about to let her tear through me again like a hurricane pretending to be a breeze. But by the 5th week, curiosity won. I picked up. Meet me Sunday, I said. 2 p.m. Piedmont Park. Bench by the lake. She agreed immediately, like she'd been waiting by the phone, hoping for mercy. Sunday came. I wore plain jeans, a clean t-shirt, and old boots. I didn't dress to impress. I dressed like me, the man she once called dirty, low-level, and beneath her. I got to the park before she did. Sat on the bench. Watched kids fly kites and couples walk dogs. The wind smelled like fresh-cut grass and wet stone. Then I saw her. She wore a long cardigan and dark glasses. Her makeup couldn't hide the exhaustion on her face. Her shoulders were hunched, her walk slower, more hesitant. She looked smaller. "Daniel," she breathed, as if seeing me knocked the wind from her chest. I nodded but didn't stand. She sat down beside me, careful not to get too close. There was silence. Then came the truth straight out of her mouth with no filter. "The man I left you for, he lied to me." I stayed quiet. "He told me he was divorced." He wasn't. He had a wife and kids. Everything he promised me was a lie. I turned to her slowly. "What did you expect me to do with that information?" She looked at her hands. "I don't know. I lost everything. My license got suspended for 3 months after I hit someone at work out of anger. I thought, maybe we could talk. Maybe we could start over." I let that hang in the air for a long, heavy moment. Then I said calmly, "Maybe." And that, maybe, that one word, was enough to light up her face with hope. But she had no idea what was coming. The days that followed our meeting were quiet. Kimberly started texting again, soft messages, polite words, short conversations like someone trying to rebuild a burned bridge, brick by brick. "Good morning, Daniel. Hope work wasn't too stressful today." I didn't rush to respond. I gave it time, not because I still loved her, but because I wanted to watch her desperation unfold fully. I wanted to see if she meant it, or if she was just a woman trying to survive the mess she made. 3 weeks later, I called her. "I've been thinking," I said. She kept silent on the other end. "If we're going to start again, there has to be a condition." "Anything," she said too quickly. "I'm not the same man I was. I don't forget pain that easily." "I understand," she whispered. "What's the condition?" I leaned back in my chair and said the words slowly, letting them sink in. "You'll pay me back every dollar I spent on your nursing education. Every textbook, every tuition payment, every ride, every lunch, every exam fee, everything. To the last cent. Not because I need it, but it will be a show of commitment to what we are building again." The line went silent. Then came her nervous laugh. "You're joking, right?" I didn't say a word. "Daniel, we're talking about starting over, rebuilding. I'm not asking you to give me love. I'm asking you to make a gesture of commitment to this new beginning. That's the price." There was silence again for some seconds. Then, "Do you have the amount?" she asked. I already did. I had a notebook filled with receipts, bank statements, scribbled notes from 4 years ago. It wasn't just numbers, it was my blood, sweat, and sacrifice. I gave her the total, down to the fuel money for the ride to her first clinicals. Her breath caught. I could hear her blinking. She didn't argue. "I'll pay it," she said finally. "Give me a week." "I'm in no hurry," I replied. "Just don't expect me to open my heart before you make that commitment." It wasn't revenge. It wasn't cruelty. It was accountability, something she had never been asked to face. 1 week later, she made the payment in full and sent me the receipt. I checked my account and saw the money deposited. And that was the day I delivered the final blow. It was a Tuesday morning. Clear skies, cool air, and nothing unusual. Except for one thing, the money had arrived, the full payment. Kimberly had paid every cent. I stared at the money in my account, not with joy, not with satisfaction, but with something deeper, peace. This wasn't about the money anymore. This was about everything I carried for years, the pain, the humiliation, the betrayal, the nights I cried into a pillow like a boy ashamed to be a man. All of it, repaid. That afternoon, I went into my old files. Opened the folder. I renamed it. One word, goodbye. I gathered the audio recordings, her insults, her rage, the glass shattering, the night she slapped me. I added the video clips, shaky but clear, her provoking, taunting, daring me to hit her. I saved them all into a single flash drive. Then I sat at my desk and wrote a message, short, clean, final. This is what you left behind. This is what I carried alone. You paid back the money. Now here's your memory. Don't call me again, I sent it. Flash drive and note, by courier to her address. Then I blocked her number. Her email. Everything. No goodbye. No second chances. Just silence. It wasn't out of spite, I wasn't angry anymore. I was free. I had carried her on my back while she spat in my face, and now she had paid for the ride. In full. I stood by my window that evening, watching the sunset wash the street in gold. For the first time in years, I didn't feel bitter. I didn't feel broken. I didn't feel anything except relief. I had loved the wrong woman with the right heart. And somehow, even after the storm, that heart was still beating. Still working. Still whole. I was still whole. It's been a year since I blocked Kimberly. A year since the last piece of her existence left my world. Not once have I wondered if she tried to reach out. Not once have I unblocked her to check. Not once have I regretted it. You see, when a man gives everything, his time, his money, his sweat, his heart, and gets betrayal in return, something inside him either dies, or wakes up. In my case, it woke up. I bought a small piece of land just outside the city, nothing big, just enough for a quiet home and a garden. I started building it slowly, with my own hands. Foundation first, then the walls. I laid each brick with care, like I was rebuilding myself as I rebuilt that house. And in many ways, I was. I no longer worked double shifts out of desperation. I worked because I loved the feel of earth in my palms, the sound of tools singing in rhythm with the morning birds. I made peace with my past, not by forgetting it, but by no longer letting it control me. Sometimes I sit on the porch of that new house, cup of coffee in hand, and I think back to those days. The lies. The insults. The betrayal. But strangely, I don't hate her anymore. I pity her. Because she lost the one man who would have stood by her even in her worst. She traded gold for glitter. Depth for flash. And when the lights went out, she realized too late that all that shone wasn't love. As for me, I have peace now. And peace is something money, titles, or apologies can't buy. Sometimes life doesn't give you revenge the way you imagine it. Sometimes it gives you something better, healing, dignity, and freedom. My name is Daniel. I am 43 years old now. I build things, not just buildings, but a life worth waking up to. And when people ask me about my past, I smile and say, it built me. Every brick of pain, every nail of heartbreak, it built me. The end. And that brings us to the end of today's story. What are your thoughts? What would you have done in that situation? Drop your thoughts in the comments, we read every single one. Your perspective matters, and we love hearing how these stories connect with you. If this story moved you, inspired you, or even shocked you, don't forget to like the video, hit subscribe, and turn on the bell so you never miss another true life tale from Whispers of Reality. We have more powerful stories coming your way, real stories that deserve to be heard. Until next time, keep listening to the whispers.